So without further ado, Tim Clark, Senior Yacht Charter Broker with MySea Yachts,
Yes,
MySea, MYSEA dot co.
correct.
SEA dot co. Tim, pleasure to speak with you and to be working with you guys.
You
Thank you
too.
for
You
taking the
too.
time on this Monday evening for you now out there and on the other side of the pond, as they say.
It is indeed. So I've never done any of these things before, so you're going to have to sort of guide me through. And if I,
Well,
yeah,
absolutely. And this is all talking about MySea. And MySea is about, again, we're thrilled to be working with you guys. Make the most of your yachting experience. And and you being at the top of the realm there at MySea is MySea, to lay it out, is a modern, innovative company working with clients across the world on a mission to help everyone enjoy the freedom of the oceans responsibly and sustainably. That's one way to put it. That being said, I would take that to explain it more aptly to the layman as you, with your knowledge and your arsenal and whatnot, you set out to give people the absolute most perfect experience when it comes to yachting on the planet. Because it's definitely not as simple as it often seems when someone goes about, chartering a boat and really getting a yacht, I should say, getting the experience out of it is not as simple as it might seem. And if you don't do it with the with the correct individuals, professionals such as yourself, Tim, and Micey, then you end up wasting a lot of money, and you could end up not even enjoying it when it's one of the greatest experiences on this planet. Correct?
correct, correct. Yeah, it's about curating those experiences for a client where they need don't necessarily need their hand held or their hands holding. It's a case of using our experience, as you rightly said, to make sure that we listen to them, to make sure that we make them feel as if the yacht is their own yacht, as if they were the owners. So that's the ultimate goal for us, is to do that. What is absolutely vital of these yachts is the crew. We spend a lot of time and effort going to all these yacht shows, meeting the crew. We validate the yachts by going to these yacht shows, and the boat itself is largely academic because it's white and it's shiny. It's got all the toys, but it's the X factor is the team on board.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Very well put. That's especially they are all shiny. So, and Muriel, who's fantastic to work with, by the way, she came up with some very great points to touch upon, and I love this one the most, is the art of making the impossible possible, which is something that you and the team or teams that you have assembled at on any given charter are experts at. And why don't you take that a step further? The art of making the impossible possible. And again, especially when it comes to chartering a yacht, it's not, I mean, it can be as simple as simply chartering an absolutely incredible vessel and being anchored in, St. Bart's. It can be as simple as that. That being said, there's taking this point of making the art of making the impossible possible because you really can. It's really beyond someone's wildest dreams, correct?
Yes, it is. Yeah. I think also is it's far more attainable than a lot of people think.
Mhm.
One can think that it's out of reach for most people who are doing well at work and they're relatively affluent, but our industry starts at a similar base of where you might be renting a villa with friends, whether it's, $10,000 a week or whatever. But once we start sharing the cost between one or two families, it can
Mhm.
become very affordable. But the one thing that is consistent is the level of service that you will get on the smallest boat or the largest yacht in the world. You'll see the big stuff, 100 meter, the Bill Gates of the world. The experience that you get should be the same. And that's what we are very focused on is making sure that the very first time somebody charters a yacht, they come away going, "Oh my word, that is extraordinary." The level of service we've had, the level of attention to detail we've had is something that we've never experienced before. We've walked away being friends with the crew. We want to come
Yeah.
back, but and nobody ever wants a smaller boat. So
Right.
there is
Right, which
that.
is very significant because that's not in any way there are no similarities with respect to airline travel or even dining at a restaurant.
Yeah.
You definitely know the quality of the restaurant and the money you're spending by how you get treated service wise.
What do you do? And also not forgetting that if you look at a restaurant or you look at a private plane or first class here, there, wherever, that is largely you have a focus of just a few hours. A restaurant, you're in a restaurant for 3 or 4 hours maximum. On a
Yeah.
plane, you're there for 10 or 12 hours maximum, whether it's a private flight or first class. That's very much the vehicle to get to where you need to be to then stop. And then you will have that attention to detail for 24 hours a day, for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever. And that never diminishes. Every day should be better than your last. And that's where these amazing crew, they get so excited with guests coming on board. They say, right, what are we going to do tomorrow? Right, okay, we
Right.
look,
Yeah.
we've got to know the clients, and so we know that they like this, that they like that. Okay, so let's surprise them tomorrow with a white party or a disco party, or we'll surprise them with a treasure hunt for the kids, and we put lots of stuff in the caves, and we're actually going to dress up like Jack Sparrow, and we're going to take them to the beach, and we're going to, it's limited by your imagination. I know that sounds very cheesy and it's very it's overused, but it really is your imagination or the crew's imagination is the limit to what they can do for you and make it really exciting and really good fun.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a completely immersive experience. And the crew is tantamount to that because you can also on the flip side, this is a very obvious statement, but you could be on the greatest mega yacht on the planet, but if the crew is not absolutely extraordinary, then it's the worst experience of your life. And that goes for anything that you're partaking in life, whether it's a charter jet or whatever it might, your own private plane, your own private yacht, whatever it might be. If the crew is not only at the top of their game, but further absolutely loving each and every minute of what they're doing, then that changes everything. And obviously, you emanate that. Uh, I can tell just in the few minutes that we've already been speaking. And so, behind the scenes of the charter of a charter brokerage, I said I charter a yacht with MySea, and thus you're preparing for it. Give me what are a few of the details of behind the scenes? Because I think that also gives people an understanding of okay, so when we're going into it, what are the things that we can be more proactive so as to provide MySea with for them to be preparing to make our charter that much more perfect.
Okay, it's a good question. I think if we sort of strip it right back to a first time charterer, so
Yeah,
someone's never chartered a boat before, and they said, look, we've heard about this yacht charter thing, and it sounds really exciting. So guide me through it. What do we need to know? What should we do? So the first question I would always ask them is, first of all, why are you wanting to charter? And that quite often has a lot of different responses. Go,
yeah,
well,
right.
we'd heard it was really cool, or we've always wanted to do it, and now we're in a position to do it. But that's you tell me what we need to know now. Second is location. Where do you want to go?
Right.
And quite often they say, well, we don't care. Well, that's not really very useful. Do
You
you want to be,
should. You definitely
do you want to
should.
be the Mediterranean? Do you want to be there in the summer? Do you want to be in Alaska? Do you want to be in the Caribbean, the Bahamas, or somewhere else, or somewhere really exciting?
Yeah.
But if we take let's say a kind of a standard charter, let's say in the Mediterranean, for instance, the south of France in the summertime in July, and then we know the ground very well down there. We know the restaurants very well. We know what you can do, what you can't do. We know the weather predictions. We know what the expectation would be for someone that's experienced. Then we can dial that back to start educating the client about what we expect they might be excited about or not be excited about. And so we can start to listen to them. And then what we will do, I mean, what I like to do personally is sit down, have lunch with them with a client and say, look, tell me about what you want from this experience. Are you coming with the children? What kind of food you like? And we start building this package of information. And then I can start discussing it with the crew and they'll go, oh, actually, yes. I understand really what they want. Let's say, for instance, they want a very simple Mediterranean experience. They want to have a little bit of the culture of France. They want to do some water sports. They want to have a party night ashore in Cannes or whatever. And therefore, we start building this package for them. So by the time they come on the boat, I've asked them all these questions. I'll continue asking them questions all the way through the planning process. We go through these very lengthy charter preference forms, which they'll have all their likes and their dislikes and their travel plans. And they quite often wouldn't really know the amount of detail that we would then go into to start putting menus together with the chef with their likes and dislikes, etc. So by the time that we give them their sample menus, these aren't sample menus. These are curated specially for the client.
Right.
These are actually written
Right.
specifically for them. We know that you don't like mango. We know that you like coconut. We know, and so the chefs got very excited about that. So these are one-off bespoke menus specifically for the client.
Right.
And when you start telling the client that, they're like, "What? What? Just for us? Yeah, yeah." This is as if it's your
Right.
boat. This is your boat for the week. And one thing that I've always said to a lot of the younger guys in this industry is build the anticipation. Don't just give all the information because that's quite overwhelming and not quite sure what to do with that. And you've got to sort of build it slowly. Never give too much information away because otherwise you kind of run into a brick wall.
Hmm.
So I'm still asking questions. I'll keep questions back actually that I could have asked 3 weeks ago, but actually that's more relevant to ask the week beforehand because they've all got they've got all the passports out. They're all excited. They're starting to pack. Oh, what's the voltage on the boat? Do I need to bring a hairdryer? Do I need to do? No, 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 no. That's all fine. So it's almost having the journey with them, so that they're so excited by the time they come on board because they can sense my excitement. Whether it's a tiny boat or a big boat. So to answer your question, what's going on behind the scenes is building the anticipation with the client. Is to make sure that they're already excited before they come on board. And you drip feed information, we'll send a little bit of a video that was shot on the previous charter. And oh, actually, they had a birthday party and they did a crazy thing. And oh, can we do that? So it's dropping little suggestions in there
Yeah.
so that they can, it'll make their experience that much more magical. So that after the second or third day, they'll feel like they've been on board for a week because they've relaxed so much more because of this building of anticipation and this engagement with the crew. Because what I also like to do is to make sure that particularly the senior members of the crew, whether it's the captain, obviously the chef, the chief officer, the chief stewardess, they have a rapport already with the client. So we've had Teams calls, we've had Zoom calls. So it's just the fact they haven't met them personally, but when they do, they feel like old friends. So
Right.
I think I said to Miro, which again sounds horribly cheesy, is that what we love is when clients cry when they leave the boat because they don't want to go.
Yeah.
So,
Well, absolutely. No, it's not
um,
cheesy.
because
That's
because it's a hugely emotional journey, and
yeah.
let's face it, everyone's working very hard. They work very hard to be able to afford luxuries like this, and so that's their time to decompress.
Yeah.
As I already said, the car, the jet, the helicopter, the boat, whatever, is the vehicle to get them to their destination as quickly as possible. Then they can relax.
Yeah.
We all know, no matter how wealthy you are, the one thing we can never control is time. So if we can be as time efficient as possible, so that expands their time on the boat and the experience they're going to have, whether they're sitting doing nothing, doesn't matter. It's their time.
Absolutely.
So that's
Absolutely.
what we're invested in is creating these time experiences for clients.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And everything you said is so after very, very well spoken, by the way. And it's you know, one of the most one of or the consistent theme, or however you want to put it, that when I've spoken to, whether it's people at the top, yacht builders or yacht, whether they're near field in the yacht industry, it's that time on the yacht, and again, whether it's via charter or owning, the yacht is that is the most precious time. It ends up being the most precious time for the owner or and their family, and that's why from what again, it's a consistent message is that it's the most important times, and it's the most if it ends up being a purchase, then which often many charters become people that purchase, of course, as you know, and it's the most important purchase of their life, and it's not just because of owning the yacht; it's because it is their means through which to have those very precious, special moments with themselves and with their family, and it's
Right.
right.
Yeah. It was funny actually because one of the things I often like to ask a yacht owner, say, well, why do you own a boat?
Mhm.
Why not charter? Then you get a different experience each time. And I think the best response from a client of mine was, well, I never have to pack a bag. I've got my phone, I've got my passport, I've got all my clothes on the boat.
Yeah.
I jump on the plane, 5 hours later, I'm on the boat. I can
Yeah.
leave. Literally, I'm still in the suit I was wearing when I left the office. And I love that response because again, it just shows that excitement and almost a sort of childish excitement going, yeah, all I need is my passport and I can get on my boat and everything's there. It's a bit
Right.
like that scene in Thomas Crown Affair, isn't it? When they've got the thing on the top of the hill
I
saying,
just was thinking about that. Yeah, absolutely. And it is that. And it's, you're
yeah,
absolutely, that's a very good way to put it. It is childish, childlike, and it's Peter Panish, so to speak. And it's having that, but it's really about those precious moments. And that's that spinning back around and correlating with what you were saying is that, that, on the one end of the spectrum, you've got the owner of Kismet or, some of the most grand vessels on the planet. Then at the same time, with the the family or the couple or whatever it might be that's doing their first charter, that's 7 to 10 to 14, whatever it is, days, end up being some of the most precious moments they've ever experienced. They don't know it going in, and then they most likely do it again and again and again. Perhaps they even end up owning, because it's not like anything else. It's not like any other type of experience. We can all go to, obviously there are different types of five-star vacations we can take, whether it's in the Maldives or wherever it might be, and they're fantastic. But it's completely different and immersive and bespoke, as you put it, and curated when you're experiencing it on a yacht that you own or a yacht charter. It is.
Yeah. And I think also one thing that I really enjoy doing with long-standing clients is that they want to have a different experience, but the boat itself is always the nucleus. That's where everyone comes to eat. That's where they talk about their day. They have fun in the evening. They've got their crew family on board waiting to greet them back.
Yeah.
But obviously, depending where you go, you have a very different focus on the yacht itself. So, for instance, in the Mediterranean, we've got the history ashore. We've got the amazing restaurants. We've got some incredible destinations to visit, whether it's forests, whether it's ruins, whether it's
Right.
a top fort or whatever it might be. So for an active charterer, yeah, they'll be doing water sports to tire the children out. They'll then go for a nice stroll ashore, soak up a little bit of the culture. And I like to sort of say it's like a flavor capture of where they are. And each destination they go to, different flavor capture.
Yeah.
Whereas if you look at somewhere like the Bahamas, for instance, which I adore, I love the Bahamas, it's all about the boat. The boat is the nucleus of the charter.
Right. Yeah.
There's nothing else. It's about the boat almost reflecting how beautiful the white sandy beach is, literally, which is a stone's throw away in this beautiful turquoise water. So
Right.
everything just reflects each other and it's beautiful. It's all about the water sports in the Bahamas.
Right.
You wouldn't go to the Bahamas and not take a boat with every water sport under the sun because
Yeah.
that's what it's all about. So that's what I would always do with a client is to say, look, as long as you love the boating side of things and you love a great crew and you love the food, let's take you to different destinations because the boat is the familiar thing for you. But actually, whether it might even be the same boat, as we all know, a lot of the
Yeah.
yachts go across the Caribbean and the Bahamas and stuff for the winter. And that's what we like for a lot of clients is that they want to take the same boat with largely the same crew to have those different experiences and
Mhm.
different destinations. We're seeing a lot of yachts obviously going to Norway at the moment more than ever,
Huh. Why's that?
which is absolutely fantastic. But again, if you look at that part of it, is that the yacht is almost a minor component to where they are because it's about going into the fields, it's about going ashore, it's about taking a helicopter ride, a zip line thing,
Right.
experiencing the whole Viking culture ashore and
Right.
going to extraordinary restaurants, all this stuff. So the yacht very much is almost the vehicle to take you from amazing destination to amazing destination, whereas the focus on the boat is probably less than it would be in the Bahamas, for instance. So there's always a reason to go to different places on a yacht to have a very different experience. Having said that, a lot of clients just love going back and doing the same thing over and over again every summer. A little bit like a summer house, as you would. So it's finding that almost pioneering spirit of being on a yacht where you can do so many different experiences while you're boating in an environment that makes you very comfortable. It's very enjoyable and you can relax. It's about the relaxation of it.
Right. Absolutely. And just as it is with any voyage or journey or vacation or experience, whatever it might be that you set out on, is you can make it as extreme or as or absolutely relaxing as you want. No. And you did bring up a very, very, very apt point. Is it with respect to chartering? Is the environment completely alters the course of the type of charter that you're doing. Uh,
Mm.
and you touched upon the Bahamas. I lived in St. Thomas for a while and seen a lot of charters there. And it's about the boat. You're not going to venture into St. Thomas and St. John to do that much. You're going to be parked in the bays and partaking in the boat and doing everything on the boat. Same as similar to the Bahamas. Whereas, as you mentioned, and then also, though, that being said, within the Caribbean or the Bahamas and whatnot, it's also going to change depending on each individual island because they're also different.
Yeah, for sure. And there are some great fun places to go to. Again, touching on the Caribbean, as we all know, every island in the Caribbean is different to the next. Whereas A lot
Yeah.
of the islands in the Bahamas look the same as the last. It's about the white sandy beaches, and that's about it, really. But in the Caribbean, we've really got the kind of three areas of the Caribbean with the BVI, and then the
Mhm.
normal bit run from St. Martin down to pretty much St. Lucia, and then the Grenadines.
Yeah.
And you can do it all. You can do it all. But again, down south in the Grenadines, we've got the link with Pirates of the Caribbean, which a lot of children want to go down to see. Well, that's filmed, and that's all really exciting. And imagine being in a beautiful bay, and you've got your outdoor cinema set up, watching Pirates of the Caribbean while you're in the Caribbean and looking over, and that's where they're filmed at Pirates of the Caribbean,
Yeah.
and it just sends the kids into overload. It's brilliant. It's fantastic. But again, but that's what we love, seeing the enthusiasm of the crew. We want, again, I touched earlier on this treasure hunt situation, which we've done so many times before. And again, that really is limited by the crew's imagination. We've had crew dressed up, hiding in a cave as a kind of monster before. They're kind of
That's
trying to get,
fantastic.
you've got to get my gold from underneath me and all this sort of stuff. And then fake sword fights, and the children just absolutely lap it up. They just couldn't believe this. But where else could you do that? You couldn't do that in a hotel or an island, or it's something that
No,
is
it's
so
completely immersive.
exactly. In fact, actually, there was one charter. It wasn't my charter; it was my colleague's charter years ago, where the client took their children out of school for 6 months, but they bought obviously the tutors and the teachers on board with them, and then they employed a company which specializes in curating these extraordinary experiences, but from a historical accuracy point of view. So they come into a bay and they would recreate the Battle of Troy or something,
Oh, that's fantastic. What a great idea.
to have the history lesson. So they're literally going ashore and they've got the teachers are saying, well, this happened, and then they're having a bit of a sword fight, and then that happened, and wow, that's limited just by, I think, not just imagination, obviously the deep pockets, but what an amazing opportunity for the kids to actually learn something as well.
What a fantastic idea. That is so great to,
Yeah.
yeah, kudos to whichever parent came up with that. That is that's genius and so fun. And as you just said, imagine being able to learn that way. That's just incredible. That's absolutely incredible.
Well, yeah, it's and as I said, there are lots of newer facilities, lots of newer ideas always coming into the industry, which is making it even more exciting for particularly the smaller boats, with how technology changes.
Yeah,
Obviously we're all very concerned about the environment, and the yachting industry is trying to keep up with that and making things more efficient and stuff. But also the amount of equipment that you have on your yacht is paramount in terms of how you're going to enjoy the experience with it. And it's all about access to the water. That is absolutely where we are right now, is trying to create this real estate on the water. So we have all these inflatable things now which will flop out and
yeah,
inflate so that they're so, it's like, it's wood, it's so hard once it's actually inflated. And we have jet ski docks and swimming pool nets and
yeah.
climbing frames, all this sort of stuff, which all packs into nothing. And so the smaller boats can now compete with the bigger boats. So what we quite often see is a family who, well, we don't want to take a big boat this year because it's just the six of us, whereas it was 12 last year. But we want to have the same experience, but in about half the size with the
Hmm.
same facilities. And now the yachts genuinely can do it.
Right.
I mean, I look after a 35-meter, 115-foot Sunseeker called Fleur. We just had her in the industry charter show about a month ago, and that yacht genuinely has as much equipment on board than a boat twice her size, which we couldn't have done 10 years ago.
Right.
It's
Isn't
all
that
about
amazing?
how,
Right.
how things evolve. It's amazing. And again, it's about imagination of how the crew can know to operate this quickly, because obviously you've got to pull this stuff out and then put it back in again. But once it's a very slick operation, the clients love it. They come back in again and again and again. So it's being very comparable to the larger yachts by coming onto the smaller yachts as well.
Which is so fantastic. And before I forget, you touched upon Norway, of course, and then also I wanted to ask you also about because I've been seeing a decent amount about it is Croatia as a destination highlight.
Amazing place. It is so full of history and a turbulent history at that. I mean, if you could read the book of the last 1,000 years in Croatia, you'd be there for weeks, But that spills through into every location you go to, and people are very passionate in Croatia. It's an archipelago of hundreds of islands. So as a destination to go to, let's say for 2 weeks is the ideal time in Croatia. You could go to somewhere where you won't see another boat for a week. You can find your little places behind the islands and feel that you're really off the beaten track. But if you get bored of that, within an hour, you could be in a wonderful metropolis, being in an incredibly historical city. Going ashore in Croatia is equally as beautiful. You have local wine vineyards, you have waterfalls, you have now really good restaurants. I mean, I would say probably 10, 15 years ago, they were just getting up to where they are now in terms of what they could offer ashore. But
Right.
also the support network for the yachting as well is much better than it used to be in terms of provisioning and what they can get on board that's really good quality. Because that was something that we struggled a little bit before. But I would say Croatia is truly one of the most beautiful parts of the Mediterranean. It has the history. It has incredibly beautiful water. It has an untold amount of cruising possibilities. Depending on what the weather's doing, you can always hide somewhere behind the lee of an island. And it's got recent history. I mean, I don't really know this, but they're really, really cool things like submarine pens from the previous war,
No.
which I've been into in one of the yacht tenders, and
Oh,
it's
that must be
wild.
fascinating.
It is. I mean, it's like in a James Bond set. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Right. Right.
Whether you're allowed to go into them now, I'm not sure, Judson, but Um, but even just to go up to them, I mean, there are two or three where you can go up and actually swim inside them, and all these little things that you just don't get to do anywhere else. It's
Ah,
extraordinary.
how fascinating.
Yeah, but again, it's really interesting engaging with again the turbulent history of the former Yugoslavia going up through Croatia up into Italy, and of course you've got Venice around the corner, so
Yeah.
there's an awful lot to do in that part of the Mediterranean. Whereas, next door in Greece, it's another story. Next door to that, Turkey, it's another story.
Yeah.
What I find fascinating is a lot of people ask me the same question. They say, why is the Mediterranean so popular? Why is it so popular in terms of yacht charter?
Hmm.
If you think of the Mediterranean from Gibraltar to basically the Suez Canal, of Egypt, it's less than 1,000 miles. It's 900 miles.
Right.
And if you think of the melting pot of different cultures, of history, countries. You have France, you have Spain, you have Italy, you have Croatia, you have Greece, you have Turkey, you have everything. You have North Africa. There's nowhere else on the planet that you have that variation of cruising possibility, of history, but more importantly, accessibility, because you
Mhm.
can get into pretty much anywhere globally into the Mediterranean. You have Milan, you have Nice, you have even Paris, sort of a short flight down. We have Barcelona, you have Athens. So all these major global hubs that you can get
Right.
to anywhere from to this extraordinary cruising possibility in the Med. And that's why it has been and will always remain as popular as it always has been.
Right. Yeah. Interesting and valid and very simple point. But yeah. And also, and it is just, it's such a melting pot. It's all right. And I've never looked at it from that perspective with respect to just, it's the accessibility.
Yeah, it is pure accessibility, and as we're all very lucky when I when I speak to a lot of my friends in the States, and they go, oh, we you're so lucky because you can jump on a plane and within an hour and a half, well, I could be anywhere in Europe in an hour and a half from England. It's incredible. Whereas an hour
Right.
and a half isn't even going halfway across a state in the States. Just going to go and get the milk.
Right. As you're going to experience soon on your drive out to Denver.
Absolutely. Well, I love driving. That's cool. But again, it's like with the skiing side of things as well. We're an hour and a half from a ski resort. Anywhere in the UK,
That's
and,
incredible.
and
Yeah.
and some of the best ski resorts in the world in the French and Italian Alps. So yeah, we're very lucky being over here.
Well, Tim Clark, my dear friend now, senior yacht charter broker with MySea, MYSEA Yachts, MYSEA.co. Tim, is there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have or that we didn't touch upon that you'd like to during this first conversation, which hopefully is the first conversation of many that we are to have?
That's a good question. I've been doing this for a while, and one thing I would say that is honestly the truth is that this industry never stops amazing me. I never stop pinching myself that I'm involved in this brilliant, crazy, weird world, particularly when I go to a boat show and I'm sitting on the back of a yacht having a beautiful lunch on behalf of a client, of course, and saying that, is this really work? It's but it is such an important part of what we do, and there have been certain people, we have disruptors in every industry, but there have been suggestions of trying to almost Uberize our business, but it simply won't work. The job of a
Yeah,
broker in this industry is so vital in terms of validation for the client. Whether you look at a doctor or a stockbroker or whatever, that you go to their experience, you want to know their experience and validation of the fact that what you're going to do for your client is exactly what they need you to do,
right,
which give you value for money to start with, but also give exactly what they want and leaving nothing to question. And that's what we try our very, very best to do is to leave nothing to chance, nothing to question. And I think that to me is the core of whether we work for a small brokerage firm or a large brokerage firm. I've worked for both. I prefer the smaller, more boutique. It's that. Sorry, I hate the word boutique. It's really that sort of almost family office
hmm,
feel that we have because there are a few of us, but we're very experienced, and we have enormous respect with the larger companies. So I think it's finding your broker, staying with your broker as a client, being referred to hopefully your friends and stuff, and using that experience and excitement to reflect what we do for a living because I love doing what I do. I love seeing the smiles on my clients' faces. I love it when I quite often will meet clients to embark them on their yachts and wave goodbye and off they go. And then a week, 2 weeks later, they're phoning me up going, "Wow, where do we
wow,
sign for next year?" And then job done, fantastic, brilliant. So it's a very nice thing when it all goes brilliant. Obviously all industries have a few little bumps on the road, but that's the other thing I wanted to say is that the bumps in the road is something that I embrace as much as doing all the good stuff because we know the industry backwards. We know who to call. We know how to manage a bad situation because we want to turn a no into a yes and a yes into a no and all that sort of stuff and manage expectations. Now, if something does go wrong, our ability to react very quickly is it saves the day. And actually, I've had so many clients turning around at the end of the charter saying, "Oh, I'd almost forgotten that happened,"
hmm,
because
right.
just reacted quickly and that's it. But again, working with the crew is so vital to have a team dynamic there. So I mean, I could waffle on forever, Judson, but it's one of those things. Any questions you want to ask me further, or
No, Tim, you're so well spoken, and to your comment of you could go on forever, I could happily sit and listen forever because it's fascinating, and also because you're so passionate about what you do and which you just touched upon yourself, and that emanates. And for those that are looking to, whether it's their first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, whatever time it is to charter, that makes it that much more apparent that for those that have not done it with MySea, that they should absolutely do it with you and your teams. And I hope at some point that I am. But
well,
Tim,
absolutely.
Tim, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day and week and a great trip that you have coming up. Well deserved. Thank you so much for taking the time, and I look forward to doing this again very, very soon.
My pleasure. Any questions you have, don't hesitate to drop me a line.
All right, Tim, take care, my friend.
Thanks very much. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.